Welcome back to Say No to Lashon Hara, Day 71. This entire series is being done for the continued health of Chana Bat Iza, and today's class is sponsored L'ilui Nishmat Chana Bat Iza. If you'd like to sponsor a class, please email us at shlomo@wearechazak.com. We've talked so far about many cases where one might have thought there was a good reason why Lashon Hara was allowed. Here, the Chafetz Chaim asks, what if I think that the person I'm saying it to actually makes it allowed? So, as an example, a person might think that when it comes to their wife, they're allowed to share Lashon Hara. But the Chafetz Chaim explains that the Torah never said that one is able to say Lashon Hara to their wife or husband. The Torah says simply that you're not allowed to speak damaging speech. That would be true even if it was to one's spouse. Now, if it's something that they must know of for some constructive purpose or toilet, as we've explained, that might allow us to make an exception. But that's not per se because it's a wife or a husband. That's because it falls into the category of toilet, as we've explained. Well, imagine, says the Chafetz Chaim, a person walks in the door and his wife asks him an innocent question. How was your day at the office? What's going on in the synagogue? And the person, oftentimes thinking that this is a time to talk and catch up with and connect with his wife, will tell her about arguments or difficult situations that they had throughout the day. Now, obviously, this is Lashon Hara, but oftentimes what it does, in this case, is actually even worse, because a wife or a husband who are so connected and close with their spouse oftentimes immediately side with their spouse against whoever it is that Lashon Hara is being said. And they side with them in anger and resentment. And oftentimes what will happen is that the wife or the husband will then take that information and go out and start to damage that person's reputation, or tell people not to invest or connect with or date that person because they're so angry that that person hurt their significant other. So oftentimes in sharing something with family, not only do you have the regular issues of Lashon Hara and the damage of speech, but you actually have a highly motivated partner in damaging that other person because of their closeness. Chafetz Chaim says it would be much better not to share that information with your family unless it was absolutely necessary. Then he actually takes another step, and he says not only is it asur in terms of Lashon Hara that will most likely get spread by someone who cares about you so much. Oftentimes what happens is that the person who you love, who you've shared this with, actually starts to see you smaller and smaller and smaller in their eyes. You come back and say that the rabbi said this to you and this other person disrespected you that way, and at work people are taking advantage of you. Eventually what happens is that the wife starts to look at her husband as a person that doesn't have the respect of his peers, of his community, of his rabbi. And as she begins to hear time after time about the fact that he was disrespected, she starts to wonder maybe he actually doesn't deserve respect. The Chafetz Chaim explains that this is what the Mishnah means when it says, Al terbeh sichai ma'isha, don't speak excessively to a woman. And the Mishnah actually continues and says that was even said about his own wife. The Chafetz Chaim's explanation, therefore, is don't talk so much with your wife about the negative things that are going on with you in the day, because the more you complain and the more you say that the world is out to get you and you're a victim, the less she feels that the person is a man in her eyes. Obviously, there are cases of toilet, of constructive purpose, Lashon Hara, so to speak, where a person is allowed to and is even obligated to share, whether it's with a spouse, family member, or a business partner. You're allowed to warn them about doing something which might damage them with someone that you know to be a shady character, as we said, if they ask you. However, you're only really ever allowed to give information that was absolutely essential. When your wife just asked you nonchalantly what was going on in the shul that day, she doesn't need that information. And even if you feel like you just want to vent is not one of the reasons that allows a person to spread or to speak Lashon Hara. A lot of times a person will be able to navigate around the situation without sharing any information, and then a person is obligated to do so. So let's say, as an example, someone says a certain person invited us for Shabbat, and you know that they are not Shomer Shabbat as much as you would like, or that they aren't kosher enough for you, or that they aren't religious enough for you to feel like being at their Shabbat table might be appropriate. Instead of saying that they don't keep kosher, or that they don't keep Shabbat, or that they aren't people that you'd want to hang out with, you might just instead say, oh, actually I wanted to invite my parents this weekend. Now you've taken a potential Lashon Hara situation and turned it into something which is completely innocent. Now, obviously there will be cases where a person's spouse will push back and will get very upset. Well, I've asked if we could go to these people already for 3-4 times, and each time you come with another excuse. At that point, a person might be able to, or might actually have to, share with them the truth. But until that is necessary, it doesn't warrant the constructive criticism concept of toilet, and therefore a person would not be allowed to share it. When you are faced with a situation like this, it's easy, obviously, to just say the negative thing. But Al Chachamim explained to us that when you spend the time to creatively navigate around it, where you're not lying, but also not speaking negatively about somebody, you have the beracha of avoiding Lashon Hara, which the Chafetz Chaim says is life itself.